Don's Seafood, Veterans Boulevard Seafood, the old-fashioned way, in the newly renovated restaurant here on Veterans. It's the same Landry family that served your great-grandfather, and it's still here today serving you with these unbelievable charbroiled oysters, great fried seafood, grilled seafood, salads, soups. Throw the seasoning in. Have yourself a wonderful experience at Don's Seafood here on Veterans Boulevard in Metairie. And a pleasant good evening to you, Ken Trahan, sportsNOLAtv coming at you from Don's, and we're so glad that you've taken time to join us this evening. As always, we talk it over with our three fine gentlemen who obviously are well prepared to tell you all about football, basketball, baseball, and beyond, starting with Torrance Small, former New Orleans Saint and NFL wide receiver. Torrance, good evening to you.
Hey, how we doing today, Ken? And hey to all out there. Great weekend, great all-star weekend. I tell you what, I had my little basketball team. John Lucas had a tournament out there at the Allee-Walsh Center. They went out there. We had fun out there playing basketball, and they also had an opportunity to go and enjoy some of the events that they had down at the convention center. I think the NBA did a great job this weekend.
Brian Allee-Walsh of sportsNOLA.com, of course, outstanding writer and contributor, and our fodder here on the show. Brian, good evening to you.
Good evening, Doctor. I want to say, I'll second what Torrance said, but I also want to throw a nice kudo out to the Major League Baseball, the Urban Invitational, involving LSU, UNO, Southern, and Grambling State. They've done, first off, Major League Baseball Urban Invitational is an outstanding tournament that helps open the baseball season. But what they've done for Wesley Barrows Stadium, they've built that into a great facility that serves this area. Great job, you guys. Keep up the great work.
Amen to that. Yeah. Pro Football Hall of Famer Rickey Jackson, per usual, joining us and expressing himself in outstanding fashion and making Brian look bad in the process. Rickey, good evening to you.
Oh, good evening, Ken. I'll tell you what, man, like Terrence said, basketball was great for this city. I mean, all the entertainment, all the great fans that came and all the celebrities that came, man, we had a great time this weekend.
All right, well, we're going to talk about all of those topics. In fact, we'll discuss the All-Star game in full coming up. We'll also have our hot seat topic about All-Star Week, and we'll show you some college baseball highlights from the Urban Invitational and more as we continue. When we return in just a moment, we'll talk about your New Orleans Saints and free agency and what's to come as sportsNOLAtv continues from Don's Seafood in Metairie. Get the steak, get the potato, get the soft shell crab, get anything at Don's. It's great. .380 games, that kind of experience and quality play. Certainly those guys are deeply appreciated for their contributions to the New Orleans Saints organization and to helping this team reach the promised land and win a Super Bowl, of course, in February of 2010. Ken Trahan, sportsNOLAtv from Don's Seafood in Metairie. As you saw, Lance Moore is the last remaining player from the Jim Haslett era, and you wonder about just how long he's going to be here based upon the way this franchise continues to evolve. So let's talk about the Saints and let's talk about free agency and what's to come. And Brian, as we get into this, clearly there are still some decisions to be made. Clearly there are still some cuts that have to be made.
Yeah, in order for them, Kenny, to continue to conduct business and try to improve their product in the next few weeks to months, they're going to have to make some more tough decisions, and there's going to be some restructuring involved. And Lance Moore, as you pointed out, Kenny's going to be one of those guys that will either probably have to take another cut or possibly be released outright himself. So, you know, they're still, what they are now, they're treading water. They still have significant room that they've got to create in order to go about conducting business. They've got RFAs they've got to sign. They've got their own guys they got to re-sign, and they've got to go out and try and sign one or two marquee free agents out there. So Jimmy Graham, of course, is looming.
Torrance, the rules are in place to keep the competitive balance. That's why you have the cap issue the way it is with what you can spend, so you cannot keep all the people you'd like to keep. That's the reality of the league.
Yes, that's where your GM come in at. GMs are the ones that have to make that balance with the talent and with whatever money that you have that's available to go out there and get some of these free agents and all, and also sign some of your own players, as you say. GM and the coach definitely has to work together so they know which direction to build this team. Because when you're putting the team together, it's not just for this year. You also have to look for the future when you're talking about salary cap and all. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. The fans don't understand. Why are we getting rid of this player? But sometimes you have to look for the future. You know, the guy might be good for us this year, but he's going to hurt us in the following years. So the GM and the head coach definitely have to be on the same page.
Rickey, there were really no surprises with the guys that were released. It's sad and to see them have to move on, but obviously given the money circumstances and how long these players have been in the league and injuries as well, there's no surprise that these 4 guys are gone.
Well, I mean, you know, looking at the 4 guys up there on the team, it was time for those guys to move on. And it's good, you know, that the Saints would let them go early so they can get picked up by another team. They can get on what they like. That's what I like about the deal. But you know what? You have to harden up and just get to the point to where I got to make some more cuts. I got to take some money from some more people. And that's the way the players got to work with the team and the team got to work with the players, because, you know, a lot of these players who making a whole lot of money, they can't go nowhere else but the Saints. So those players you have to bring in and let those players know that here go pay cut we need you to take, either take it or leave it. And I think those guys will be willing to work with the Saints if you bring them in and try to, you know, let them know that you need the money back to make the team better for the future.
It would not surprise me if all 4 continue to play in the NFL somewhere else, and my guess is someone is likely to give them a chance. Jabari Greer remains a question mark about his injury, pretty severe, coming back. Were he not injured, he'd still be here. And he's a guy they'd like to have healthy because of his locker room presence and his ability on the field, especially at his position. Let's take a look at the NFL calendar, because it is a busy calendar and everything's starting to happen. Well, you see the date, February 17th, like right now. First day to designate franchise or transition players. Then you got the combine coming up in a couple of days. First days the teams may contact unrestricted free agents, March 8th, and then the league year begins on March the 11th. April 21st, the first day of off-season workouts, and the NFL draft May 8th through the 10th. Okay, Brian, first day to designate franchise transition players. Is Jimmy Graham going to be franchised in your mind?
Yes, yeah, I can't imagine them reaching an agreement in that short period of time. Yeah, that would be the ideal business way to do this. You can franchise Jimmy now and continue to negotiate through, I think it's in July before training camp, and then you got to shut it off and he plays under that 1-year salary. I suspect that they're going to franchise him and they'll try to continue to negotiate.
But the question is, what are they going to franchise him as?
Well, that's a good point, and that won't be decided. It'll be tied in, T.
Yes.
Okay, and then they'll bring it to an arbiter in July, I think, you know, and they'll determine whether or not that's correct. But I think the first order of business is they'll franchise him as a tight end.
And what they're trying to do, they're trying to see how many plays that he lined up at a wide receiver and compare it to how many plays he lined up at the tight end spot. So that's what his guy just trying to work. You know, when you get an agent, man, their job is to go out and try to work the best situation for you, put you in the best situation that can make your future and your money and stuff grow in the future. So that's what the agent's trying to do. The agent's just trying to take his shot and show the guy that I'm working for you.
I think you have to look at comparisons, and when you look at positions, you have to look at who's the highest paid guy at the position. In 2012, Rob Gronkowski got a 6-year, $53 million extension, and there's no doubt that Graham wants to be paid more than Rob Gronkowski. So I think that's a litmus test in terms of numbers to look at. You saw the combine on there. Torrance, how much stock should we place in the combine? Sometimes we see guys that work out great and don't play well, and vice versa. How much stock should we place in it?
I don't put much, excuse me, I don't put much into the combine. I think the combine is great for those small school players like myself. I came out of Alcorn, give an opportunity to show the league what you're capable of doing, some of your stats and all. But I don't think it works for the big players. Most of the big name players, they don't do anything at the combine anyway. These guys have their own workout, or they wait for the pro scouts to come to their school before they get their workouts. And I think that's when that is the main thing, because that's when they get more one-on-one time with you. So that's more important than the combine.
Good for Trahan Armstead, Brian.
Absolutely. You know, that's a great point. There's a guy whose stock was elevated tremendously. You know, to me, it's just another piece to the puzzle. Like T said, it's just one more thing that they can evaluate. I think one of the most important things is The medical, if you've got a medical problem, you're going to get it. You're going to get everything scoped or everything looked at real closely.
And one more thing, Ken, right quick. I'll tell you what. Graham going to be a receiver, and you got to realize what the guys from Detroit made, and all those guys made 100 and something million. So he's not worried about that little 53 million for the tight end. He's trying to get in the big boy league.
Ultimately, that's where he's going to have slotted is just above Gronkowski, I do believe.
Yeah.
But that's not going to happen this year. I agree with Brian. I think they're going to be so far apart that they're going to have to tag him and then deal with it after the fact. I do see that coming. So Saints fans, hold on, batten down, strap it in. It's going to be a long process, but Jimmy Graham will still be wearing black and gold and white, of course, which they like to wear at home. When we return in just a moment, we'll talk about NFL free agency. We'll take a specific look at a mock draft and where the Saints might go in the draft as Sports NOLA TV continues. From Don's Seafood, get that stuffed baked potato. Dressing's outstanding. Come on by Don's. Don's Seafood on Veterans Boulevard has nightly specials that you won't want to miss. On Monday night, surf and turf, you got it. You get the seafood, you get the steak all in one. It's special. Tuesday night, seafood platter. I dare you to try to finish it. I dare you. Wednesday night, I dare you to get all you can eat. Brian's ready, salivating. Boiled shrimp, they're outstanding, and you can get any amount of portion that you want continuously. And then on Thursday night, it's all you can eat. Catfish or shrimp, the batter's great. See how much you can pound away and see how much you'll enjoy it. It's special, always special, here at Don's Seafood on Veterans in Metairie. Ken Trahan with you on Sports NOLA TV. And of course, free agency approaches, and the Saints have some specific needs. And this week we take a look at offense and the free agent pool of offensive players. So first and foremost, let's take a look at the offensive free agent linemen that are on the board right now. And this is a position where the Saints definitely might take a bite. As well, they should. And of course, at the bottom of that list, you got two players from the Saints. Brian, you look it over. Anybody that appeals to you there? Anybody worth spending money on from the Saints' perspective?
Well, I like the kid from Carolina. I like Wharton as a tackle. And Michael Orr, of course, has got the big name. There's other guys up there. But I really think that the Saints will be in a position, they want to re-sign their two linemen that are out there, free agents, and that if they would lose them, or if they want more money, they're going to, the way they operate, that's their MO. So we'll see. I think that they do. I know you guys think that they need to upgrade that position, and I'm in agreement with you, but they got to spend their money elsewhere. And I know what you guys are going to say. You got to spend money to protect Drew Brees. They brought back Bryce Harris. We'll see what he does. And I don't know. I'm kind of tossed, Kenny, on all that. I really am about an offensive lineman to go out and spend money.
Well, we saw Alex Mack on that list. He's a center, and to me, if you're going to do anything on the offensive line, Torrance, that's the position that they would need to upgrade, from my perspective, over what they have right now, is the center position.
Well, the center is a very important position. That's the guy who makes the call. Other than the quarterback, he's the next important guy on that field before the snap of that ball that needs to get people in place and get people lined up the proper way. So there is a big need. I wouldn't say a big need, but an upgrade that the Saints can use.
I'll tell you, just looking at the guard spot too, man. I mean, you always can use a good backup in the guard spot. And tackle, Brian don't want to talk about the offensive line. He don't want to talk about the tackle position, how weak it is. But the Saints need two good tackles to protect Drew Brees. That's what they need. To start the game off, Drew Brees needs some protection in the tackle position.
Well, I think they feel like they've got one in Terran Armstead.
I agree with you, but remember now, see where all the money that the Saints spend is at guard, okay? Because of Drew's size, and they try to get that passing lanes. It all comes through the guard. Grubbs and Jari Evans. And before them, Carl Nix. That's who were being paid all these top dollars. They can't afford to go out and get the kind of tackles that maybe we all think they should go get. They've got to train them up. They got to coach them up.
Evans is the only one they've invested in over the years, Torrance. They let the rest leave when they hit free agency.
When you, each year we lost just about a Pro Bowl caliber lineman. Right. It's going to come a time where you're going to have to make some tough decisions or what we're going to do. Are we going to continue this trend of losing these good linemen, or we're going to start training them and keeping them home? That's the thing. But that's where the GM and the coaching have to come in when we're talking about salary cap and trying to balance everything out.
Well, I tell you what, too, Terrence, just like the Dolphins, they got a lot of trouble down there with those cats. But that guy Rickey, a lot of people ain't gonna want to touch him. But my whole thing is, man, he's a football player, and I think that the locker room that we have and the coaches we have, I mean, a guy like that you can bring in, and you won't have to pay a whole lot of money. He's tough, he's physical, he can run. I like cats like that.
Well, you know, the whole thing is it's a philosophy, as you addressed, T. And I don't think that philosophy is going to change until number 9 departs.
Yes.
Okay, I really don't. As long as he's a $20 million quarterback, it's difficult, you know, and then their philosophy, again, is to pay guys up the middle. Brian De La Puente, he may go find more money elsewhere. You know, I don't think they're going to pay him what he thinks he's worth, but I think he's foolish if he wants to leave. He should come back and stay in this system, because that system is going to pay him good money for the next few years.
Golden Tate? You saying?
Well, no, we're gonna. Well, don't steal my thunder, because now that's my job. It's time now to take a look at wide receivers that are on the free agent market. Thanks for jumping the gun, Torrance. And here's your list of players that you can certainly keep in mind and consider. Now, it's a long list, Torrance, and we'll start with you since this is your position. Obviously, you see names. What you don't see are the dollar signs associated with those names. So you got to do your shopping. And if you do your shopping, are you going to shop at Saks Fifth Avenue, or are you going to shop at Kmart? I mean, the bottom line is you probably want to shop somewhere in between if you do shop, right?
Yeah. Well, one thing we can't say about the Saints, they've been great at finding these receivers in later rounds, or I'm not going to say free, but mainly in the later rounds. We've been good at recognizing and scouting good receivers that can come and play. If they can do that, that'll be great. Some names that are out there that I think would be great, but I don't think they have an opportunity to get, is probably Akeem Nicks. That's one name that might be good. Ted Ginn, if they can get a guy like that can run, that can do punt return, kickoff return, and be a speed guy that we're missing to get down the field to spread the defense, I think that'll be a great pick. But we'll see. But they have been great at drafting young receivers.
Brian, it all boils down to how they feel about Joseph Morgan. If they feel like Joseph Morgan is that guy, that vertical guy, and a guy that could possibly return kicks, and that elite speed guy, which he is in terms of raw foot speed, then I don't think they make a move here at all. Whereas if they're not sold on him, then maybe they do.
I agree, and again, we got to focus on the money allowed out there for this team. They're not going to be able to go out and get this marquee guy. There's some good names there that could maybe upgrade this team, but their needs are elsewhere. And like Kenny said, I think that if Joseph Morgan comes back healthy, they'll know if he's the guy. He's a guy that they like. They like his vertical speed. So these are all pipe dreams here, folks.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, man, you got a kick return again. You got a punt return, the guys. You got to find you somebody who can bust that thing wide open in the special team. Plus, they can play receiver too. So there's guys out there that can help the team. You just got to be willing to spend the money to get these guys.
Or do your homework, Rickey. You know, you can find these guys.
They've been good. I don't think they're going to change much. I think they've been great at finding guys in the late round and free agent at receiver. I think they're going to continue that thing. They've been doing it the last couple years now. I don't think that's something that's going to change when you're talking about receivers.
And that position is deep too in the rookie class too.
Yes.
It's very deep.
Yes,
It certainly is. When we return in just a moment, we'll take a look at a mock draft by Mike Detillier of our staff at WHNO to give you some thought about where the Saints may go, and we'll talk about it as well as Sports NOLA TV continues from Don's Seafood, where the charbroiled oysters and the gumbo and the mashes are waiting on you. Our sportsNOLA.com trivia question of the evening is another good one. 2 years ago, Drew Brees was the last Saints player to be slapped with the franchise tag. Who was the last Saint to be tagged before Brees? That's right, think about it. The last guy that had the tag applied to him before Drew Brees was? We'll tell you in a little while. Let's see if you remember and can come up with the correct answer. Ken Trahan, Sports NOLA TV from Don's Seafood in Metairie. So glad you've joined us. And we look ahead to the NFL draft. Mike Detillier of our staff, who works with John Forcade on the John Forcade Show, has his mock draft out, his latest edition. This is what he has. Johnny Football at number 1. How about Greg Robinson of Thibodeau High School out of Auburn at 2? Jadeveon Clowney, some think he's the best athlete, but really didn't play much his senior year, or didn't try a whole lot, right? Blake Bortles, a subject of hot debate. Sammy Watkins can fly. Jake Matthews can run. Goes without saying that a tackle like that is a guy that's coveted because of his overall speed. And then you move ahead, Teddy Bridgewater, outstanding athlete at quarterback. We know C.J. Mosley very well from Alabama. Mike Evans, intriguing, big wide receiver who can run from Texas A&M. Then you move forward, Marquise Lee, another of those types of receivers. Look at Odell Beckham Jr. out of Newman and LSU, dual threat as a kick returner, along with being a wide receiver. And then you get into the area that the Saints are going to be in, and there you have it. You got HaHa Clinton-Dix out of Alabama, whom we know, Kelvin Benjamin, good-sized wide receiver, and then Cyrus Kwanjo, big tackle from Alabama, and Mike has Marcus Roberson out of Florida, the cornerback, going to the New Orleans Saints in the first round. The rest of the guys on the list, look who's number 32, Jarvis Landry by the Seattle Seahawks. Boy, do I like him. That's a guy that if he was there, I'd have a hard time passing him up if I were the Saints. That said, Brian, as you look at Mike's mock draft, and of course it's going to change again, as they always do, moving forward. He's got a cornerback going to the Saints in the first round, which makes a lot of sense. The Saints have gone there quite a bit in recent years.
I was just thinking that Johnny Patrick Robinson, and it's certainly a position I think they need to address, whether I would like to see a veteran come in personally. But if you can get a top-rated corner at 27, so be it.
Yeah, they drafted Tracy Porter high as well. They have addressed that position quite a bit early in the draft, Torrance.
Yeah, you get a guy that's used to playing man-to-man. And down in Florida, they played a lot of man-to-man. So we bring in a guy that used to playing man-to-man, used to playing bump and run. He could do a lot of that. So I think that'll be a great pick. Definitely fit for what we like to do down here.
I mean, you know, the defensive back, I'd rather take the Seattle route. I'd rather get me some third, fourth round guys who can play football. And get me some bigger guys, let those guys play. But those first round, Saints can move up or move down. I mean, they really don't pan out. I don't see where the Saints, the defensive back has been so great here when they got first round.
Well, I think you're right. You can go back to Alex Molden. I mean, there's been Gerard Cherry. There's been guys picked early who didn't pan out. You're right, but still, it's such a tough position to fill. Seattle did it with lower guys in the draft, as you mentioned, but you have to take a look at that. As for the list itself, Brian, there are some intriguing players on there that might be around when the Saints pick. You saw Cyrus Kwanjo, the big tackle. He'd be hard to pass up. He's really good. Calvin Pryor, the safety out of Louisville, good athlete, good player. Dee Ford, really good athlete who can run on the edge from Auburn. The problem is you have guys like that already. And we mentioned Roberson, who's on the list, Beckham of LSU, Jarvis Landry of LSU. There's quite a few guys that I like. Those are a few of them.
Yeah, you know, if a guy like Kelvin Benjamin, in my mind, would drop somehow to 27, I'd go get him. But the two corners that they've had most success with, if you think about it, Keenan Lewis and Jabari Greer, and they were both taken through free agency. I still think they ought to go that way with the CB. I really do.
If you look at the history, of the Saints, you know, free agents been good at cornerbacks, receivers later round draft picks. I think they stick with their trend, stick with that. It's been working for you. And hey, I think Rickey had a great idea. Move down, get more picks. Maybe they'll work out for you.
Well, I mean, even like Jacoby Ford. I mean, Jacoby Jones. Those guys are going to be there for you to bring in as free agent. They're not a high dollar guy. They got good speed, and those guys want to come back home. So you can get a lot of guys that from New Orleans ready to come back to this area. They done got Super Bowls and they done been out there for a while. They ready to do like Keenan Lewis. They ready to come back here and play football.
You're right, and Jabari Greer was that guy too, and he's been a good player. And Brian, if you look at the draft, I don't mind the Saints trading up if it's to get a guy that unquestionably will upgrade their team, and that's clearly better than anybody else on the board. But trading down is the more likely scenario given their circumstances.
You know, they don't have a 7 this year, so you have 6 picks to work with. You've got a tight cap. What better way than to play with your draft? And that's why they have the draft. You can make moves. You don't necessarily have to spend a lot of money anymore because they're all slotted. So, yeah, I mean, it certainly makes sense.
I think it'll be a great idea for them. Let's move down. I say move down. Don't move up, move down. They have a lot of talent in this draft. Let's move down. Use our scouting department. Been great, like I said, at receiver. Maybe look for somebody, a corner that's out there. We'll talk about that another time. But I definitely think they should move down, get more picks. I think more picks can help us out.
Rickey, there's a guy, number 30, Jason Verrett at TCU that he has San Francisco taking. This is a kid that runs really well, but he's not big. We've seen the Seattle model of the big defensive back that can play. Obviously, that's what everybody wants, but would you hold it against a guy if he's not big, at least 5'9", 5'10"?
Well, I mean, the trend, once the trend go to doing something, everybody stick with it in the NFL. You know what I mean? The jump ball, you got Graham and all those guys, 6'6", you know, you don't want a guy that 5'9" trying to jump with those guys. So you need you somebody about 6'1", 6 feet, 6'1", 6'2", and ready, you know, can jump and got good football savvy.
It looks to me, Torrance, like the trend at quarterback has really opened up. Eyes have been opened and attitudes have been opened because of Drew Brees and now Russell Wilson. Teams aren't nearly as caught up in you got to be 6'3" or bigger to play quarterback in the NFL.
No, these guys are showing that they can throw in windows. You know, they can find the throwing lanes and all. And they're not only that. I think the most important thing about a quarterback is decision making. You know, can a guy make a decision? Can a guy make plays? And that's what these guys are being able to show in spite of their size.
And RG3, Colin Kaepernick, Cam Newton, Russell Wilson, Brian, they've changed the landscape and they've made it possible for Johnny Manziel to be considered perhaps the top guy in the draft.
There's no doubt about it. And you know, you can see where Johnny is lobbying already with the Texans. I mean, look what he does. He's like all the guys you mentioned, Kenny. He can extend plays. He's a proven winner, and he's as cocky as the day is long. And this is really kind of what you want in that position.
Yes.
I mean, and he's mobile, and that's what they're looking for. They're looking for a mobile guy, plus he got a great arm, and he's hard to bring down. And he makes plays for your offense, and that's the whole key to it. You get a lot of guys that are not mobile. You know where they're going to be at. And Terrence will tell you, if I know where a quarterback going to be at, he's going to get a lot of problems.
You'd have a hard time.
I guarantee you, Manziel didn't want us showing those highlights. He would much prefer that we show him throwing the ball because he's worked hard to be good at that too. When we return in just a moment, our hot seat segment, all about NBA All-Star Week in New Orleans, as sportsNOLAtv continues from Don's Seafood, where we're crowded, people are happy, the waitstaff's nice, and the food is great. Don's Seafood. Our sportsNOLA.com trivia question of the evening. Who was the last Saints player to be slapped with a franchise tag before Drew Brees? Do you know it? Are you on it? Do you think you know it? It's Charles Grant in 2007. It wasn't very long ago, so not very hard to remember. In retrospect, maybe not the greatest move. He was a nice player, but certainly wasn't all that and was gone from the Saints a couple of years after that. Ken Trahan, sportsNOLAtv from Don's Seafood in Metairie between Clearview and Transcontinental. It is time now for our hot seat segment, where we place Brian Allee-Walsh on the hot seat with a hot topic of the day. And what better topic than the one that is freshest on the minds of everyone regarding our metropolitan area. NBA All-Star Weekend just completed here in New Orleans. By all accounts, a nice event, successful financially. But the question on the hot seat topic today is very simple. Should we keep NBA All-Star Weekend as it is? Should we tweak it to a degree, and if so, where? Or should we blow it up and start all over again? That encompasses the whole experience, the whole week, not just the game. Brian, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Trahan, as always. Unlike other All-Star games, I probably have less of a feeling about the NBA All-Star game in the sense that I think it's okay the way it is. One, it is what it is, and that being it's an extravaganza. The play in the court is almost secondary in my opinion, as much as the events leading up to it. You know, you've got the best players, and as long as you showcase their talents, their skills, the dunk contest is greatly enjoyed by all fans. I think it's 48 minutes of just the greatest pickup game of basketball in the world, and I don't see any reason to change it. If there's a better idea, I certainly don't have it.
I agree with you on that. I think it was a great weekend, and it's not just the game. It's the things that's leading up, that Thursday, the jam sections and all. My kids had the opportunity to go there. They enjoyed it. They enjoyed being able to meet some of the players and take pictures and hang out with some of the players, and not just the players, but you get a lot of superstars that come down to this thing. Now, the one thing that I would like them to change is the dunk contest. If you can change, they can go back to the old style. I don't know, give them more money. But I was excited that they had some of the high marquee players that wanted to be in the dunk contest, but it's just the format. I just didn't like the format. I like that you had the dunk contest, but change the format. I think they need to change the format back to the old ways with the marquee guys. It would have been very exciting. There was some exciting dunks, but I just let the guys do their own thing. This is you're one-on-one, you're by yourself, you go and you do it, not as a team, East and West. But other than that, I thought the weekend was great. It was fabulous. They had a lot of other things that tied into it. I also had an opportunity to see the NBA Live and NBA stuff, I think it's called. And they showed the city and all, and they had Grant Hill, and I forgot the other young lady that was with him, but they showed the music part of the city, the food, they show you different places you can go. And everybody I talked to, there was a lot of oohs and ahs, not just on the court, but off the court as well.
I'll tell you what, man, just to have the All-Star game to come back here, you know what I mean, it was so great. And then having where the kids can go entertain and interact with the players and stuff. A lot of the ex-players really showed up, man, and gave the kids a whole lot to look forward to. And that was the key to it, everything. That it'd be expensive to go to the games on Sunday, but all during the week before the game, it was affordable for the kids and stuff to come out and enjoy it. And that's what I liked about the NBA. They gave the kids a good opportunity to be with the NBA.
I think, yeah, I'm in agreement with you guys. I think the NBA does a very good job of showcasing its game over that 3-4 day period. And look, you know, I love watching good defense, but you know what? When you get the best 25 players,
yes,
arguably in the world, certainly in our country, you get the best 25 players together on the same floor. You know what? I don't want to see defense. I want to see some dunks. Yes. You know, now I don't want to see the kind of dunks that we see on a Friday night or a Saturday night. Yeah. You know, in those All-Star shows. But you do want to see these guys just travel.
Yeah, he want to hear the oohs and ahs. Yeah, and stand up when you can. I know you're a little old, you can't. But you know, the ones that make you stand up when they dunk. I understand what you're saying.
I need a kid.
But it is, like Rick said, it was great for the kids. Not only that, they also gave to one of the schools. They changed their locker room. NBA does a lot. They're able to let the kids, we're able to touch and feel. And I think that's the great thing that the NBA does.
And I'll tell you what, man, just seeing how all those guys went up to Bill Russell, I mean, and just showed Bill Russell that we really thank you, man, for what you did for the game. We really thank you for, in the future, that we're going to be something just like you. And that's what key. I mean, they looked at an old guy like that who's still coming around, who was a legend, and all them guys know that what they got to do in the future.
Yes, history.
One more thing, and here's why I like the NBA better than the NFL. The NFL takes its game to Hawaii. That doesn't do anybody in the lower 49 states good. Mm-hmm. The NBA keeps its money at home in New Orleans, which is not known as a basketball city, right? But in 2 years, we've had the All-Star game, and you know what? It's received it with open arms, and I'm proud of what our city's done in those 2 years.
Well done. Well done.
On that party.
You guys have done a great job.
I can say something on a party.
And I appreciate all your thoughts. I think it's a very good experience. I think it needs to be tweaked a little bit. The jam session is great. That is affordable. It's for everybody. And it's no surprise they had about 83,000 people that passed through the doors of the convention center. The player appearances all about town are fantastic. They were at Clark High School, as was alluded to. And they make a lot of other appearances for charity, which is terrific. Hands-on, NBA cares. That's great. Then you get into the weekend. The celebrity game, who cares? Really, I think they ought to maybe think about making this a profile and use all of their WNBA All-Stars in this game to make it more entertaining and more basketball, because you got some people out there that are simply out there to try to be seen, can't play the game a lick, and it's a little bit ridiculous, and it's not like they have big-name celebrities participating either. Then you get to Saturday. The three-point shooting contest, for me, I think it's a good format. I think it's a good event. Nice to see a former Hornet win it, Marco Bellinelli, though he shot a few air balls in the process. Then you have the dunk contest, and I agree with Torrance. I think it's got to be changed. A couple of things that need to happen here. Number one, the format was horrible. People didn't even know it was over with, and they got some boos in the process because of the format, which stunk. Secondly, what I remember, and again, I'm not trying to sound dated, but when you had Dominique Wilkins and Michael Jordan and the like participating, you had the best of the best. And I think the comment was passed here, pay guys. If you made it incentivized where you paid guys a significant amount of money, you might get the best in the league to show up. All you got to do is look at the game itself with Blake Griffin and LeBron James and some of the dunks they had in the actual game itself. Those are the guys that should be in the dunk contest, which would make it eminently more entertaining. You can have it, it's not for me. Get rid of the props. Dunking isn't about props, it has nothing to do with the game itself. Forget about it, okay? And then from the standpoint of everything else, look, I think it's a good weekend. I like to see it continue. We're not going to get it back anytime soon. That said, I think it's pretty good. Just tweak it a little bit. And oh, by the way, have someone sing the national anthem. When we return in just a moment, we'll talk some college baseball, more on the All-Star Game as we continue from Don's Seafood in Metairie on Veterans. They're smiling, and so are we, because we're at Don's Seafood. Best site on the web, that's sportsNOLA.com. Check it out, and you'll read about everything under the sun. High school, college, pro, every sport imaginable, every day. And you can follow Lenny Van Gilder and I via Twitter, as mentioned. Well, we talked about, on our hot seat segment, the All-Star Weekend as it was. Now let's talk about the game itself. And if you want to call it a game, it's an exhibition. The most points scored in NBA All-Star Game history, most shots taken, most everything just about across the board. It was offense galore. Anthony Davis played 10 minutes, got 10 points, went, 5 or 6 from the field. And Brian, some people were complaining, oh, he didn't play enough. No, that's about what you expected. He's 20 years old, first All-Star game. There's a pecking order associated with it. Chris Paul can tell you about that as he alley-oops here for his teammate. It's all about pecking order. How long have you been here? How much have you contributed? That's what kind of minutes you're going to get.
Yeah, that's true thing. I think, some of these guys like AD played the game on Friday night and stuff like that. So, coaches do want their guys to take this as a restful weekend, although Kevin Durant played, I think, every minute, didn't he? But, AD and Chris Paul was neat seeing them hook up a couple of times. So,
well, you mentioned Kevin Durant's head coach in the All-Star game was Scott Brooks.
Yeah.
Gee, small coincidence.
Yeah.
Torrance?
Yes, Kevin Durant, he was unbelievable. 35 points between him and Blake, 35, 36 points each. Those guys put on the show. The All-Star game is about putting on the show, and the superstars put on the show. They gave you the ooh, they gave you the ahs. That's what the kids come for. When you spend $200 per ticket, and some say more than that, you want to see the superstars show their ability.
Well, now you've hit on my only other complaint about All-Star Weekend, going back to the previous segment, Ricky, and that is that it's too expensive. $500 for the cheapest ticket going in. By the time game time arrives, you can get one a little bit cheaper upstairs in the nosebleed section, but they had at least 2,000 empty seats, and that was taking out about 2,500 seats from the arena. So that's my biggest gripe, is that they've priced the fan out of it, and it's not an easy sell at all. So that in mind, as far as the game itself, Ricky, anything in particular you liked about it?
Well, what I liked about the game was the guys taking such a long shots. I mean, everybody was a three-point shooter, and I mean, that means they don't want nobody to get hurt. And I like the dunks. I mean, some of the dunks that LeBron did and some of them that Blake Griffin did, like Terrence saying, these guys were way above the rim. They probably got some special tennis shoes on. I mean, looking at these guys hit their head on the rim and stuff, man. These guys must have got some special tennis shoes.
Well, you know what I wanted to see at the very end? And I know these guys play defense at crunch time the last 3-5 minutes. I did want to see more of LeBron against Durant. Those kind of guys go one-on-one. I wouldn't mind, listen, I thought this was going to happen last night. They've been talking about it. I thought the other 8 guys were going to come off the court and let these 2 guys play a little one-on-one at the very end. I really did. I really did.
They did that in the rookie game.
Yeah,
in the rookie game they did.
Right.
It would have been a great show if they would have done it. You know, the 2 guys that work out together. And with all this talk, they're trying to beef it up, but these 2 guys are kind of just keeping it cellular, keeping them focusing on team more so than themselves right now.
As Ricky mentioned, there was a record for the most three-pointers attempted in an all-star game, and you had some interesting numbers. LeBron James was 0 for 7 from three-point range. Please stop shooting three-pointers, LeBron. Stephen Curry, who's the best shooter in the league, was only 2 for 11. Now, on the other hand, Carmelo Anthony shot the lights out. He was 8 for 13 beyond the arc and was just raining rainbows on the Western squad. And Kevin Durant, as I mentioned, anything across half court, that's a good shot for him. He's launching it. I mean, that's it, as what you saw in this game. So, by and large, a very entertaining exhibition. It's not a game. If you go into it looking at it as an NBA game, you're watching the wrong thing. It doesn't resemble an NBA game at all. Frank Vogel is the head coach of the East Squad. His Indiana Pacers are the #1 defensive team in the NBA. You got to believe he was choking on his food watching this defensive performance.
Yeah, but Kenny, you know what? On the flip side, if you watch an NBA game, regular season game, when do they play defense? Truly, when do they play defense? At crunch time.
Yeah, but they play more defense than that.
They do.
They don't average. Teams average less than 100 points a game.
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
I'll tell you what I like about what Coach did last night.
Yeah.
He said, if we hold them to 155, we'll win the game.
Right on.
Right on. And that's what they held them.
You nailed it.
He held them to 155, and they won the game. That was the key.
Meanwhile, there was a special weekend for college baseball. Delgado, 9-1. They swept this weekend, winning every game in the Reg Sherman Memorial Classic. And LSU opened the #2 team in the nation. They swept 3 games, 2 against UNO, 1 against Grambling. Pitched great. Tulane swept Arkansas Pine Bluff. Pitched great. J.P. France and Rennie LeBlanc in particular. UNO 1-2. They whipped Southern, but they played very competitive against LSU. And Ron Maestri's return, what a great story. And I thought his team showed dramatic improvement over last year with the way they competed overall against LSU. They gave LSU some problems, Brian.
Absolutely. In fact, I talked to Mace before the show today and congratulated him on. It's good to see him back in the dugout. And I'll tell you what, he's got some guys that can throw the ball. It's small ball again. I think there was only 1 home run up at LSU over the weekend.
Christian A. of LSU.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, but Maestri's got a good team, and Paul's got a good team up at
And
LSU.
Ricky, as was mentioned, the Urban Invitational, we need more African Americans in baseball, and having this academy here and having this event, that's going to help. It's going to take time, but it's going to help.
Well, what got me over the whole weekend of the tournament was Southern and Grambling. They wasn't as good as they usually be. They usually have some great guys playing ball for Southern and Grambling.
And Torrance, if you look at it, and this is a fact, you look at Southern's team, they've got Caucasians and Hispanic players playing for their team. And again, this gets back to the whole concept of the Urban Invitational and trying to get more African Americans engaged in the game.
And it starts with the youth ball. You got to get those youth ball parks back open so the Urban League can really get back out and start playing.
No doubt. College basketball, LSU spinning the bit. They're not going to the NCAA tournament, folks. UNO, Tulane, it's the way it is. Back in just a moment with more from Don Seafood on sportsNOLAtv, where the food's great and the company's better. Stay with us. Don Seafood at 4801 Veterans Boulevard in Metairie between Clearview and Transcontinental. Call 889-1550. For over 80 years, this family-owned business has been getting it done. They served your grandparents, your parents, now they're serving you. They've stood the test of time because they have traditional family recipes as mouth-watering today as they were 80 years ago, and they pass the litmus test every single time. It's Don Seafood here on Veterans Boulevard in Metairie. Our first NBC Bank Prep Showcase continues tomorrow night, live at sportsNOLA.com with basketball. The Rummel Raiders at Holy Cross to take on the Tigers. And you can watch it live at sportsNOLA.com and also tape delayed 8 p.m. Wednesday night right here on WHNO Channel 20. You won't want to miss it. Our first NBC Bank Prep Showcase. Ken Trahan, sportsNOLA TV. A lot of good things coming up. Prep Wrestling State Championships this weekend at the Pontchartrain Center in Kenner. Friday and Saturday, they will pack the house, standing room only. Prep Soccer playoffs well underway. Championships in New Orleans next week, Wednesday through Friday at Tad Gormley Stadium. College basketball, as mentioned, Tulane a good win over UAB. UNO a tough loss to McNeese State. LSU with a bad loss as well. and the most important sport of all, eating. The special for Tuesday nights, the seafood platter. It's got everything: stuffed shrimp, regular shrimp, hush puppies, catfish, oysters, French fries, stuffed crab. Are you ready?
Kenny, now I know what it's like being a left tackle trying to keep that defensive end off of Drew Brees. Ricky's trying to, he's elbowing me out of the way right now. If I don't make it through the last shot, it's because of him.
And then don't forget the shrimp
Franchise
etouffee.
player.
I'm going to strategically move this because I got a feeling
It could.
you guys are going to take a shot at this,
Yes.
right?
Go ahead,
Yes.
my friend. Come on, big dog.
It's over with now. This stuff will be gone in no time at all because they do it better than anyone else here at Don's. Just ask Torrance, ask Brian. Rookie. I'm not chewing, but I can act like it anyway. I will be shortly. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. Enjoy the food like everyone else, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you, Dr. Trahan. Always a pleasure.
Rick?
Thank you.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you.
Come to Don's.
They got nothing to say. Until next time, Ken Trahan. Thanks for joining us. Be a good sport, and God bless you one and all. Rounding third and heading home. So long.